Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Train to Busan, a South Korean horror film from 2016. Now originally, I was planning on reviewing every Asian horror movie within the Asian Horror Year in Review playlist, but it was pointed out to me by some of my viewers that that particular strategy might be a disadvantage because all of the new Asian horror movies that I would watch would not be posted on this YouTube channel until years down the road, until I get to, say, 2016 in that Year in Review playlist. So, right now we're working our way through 2007, so it's going to be a while till we get to 2016. So in order to kind of benefit some of my viewers, I kind of agreed with the recommendation that maybe I should review a few of the bigger name Asian horror films as I see them, as they come out. So decided to make an adjustment and will now occasionally review some Asian horror films separately from that playlist. This is especially true for the big name current releases, and one of those releases is Train to Busan. Now, while a zombie virus breaks out in South Korea, a couple of passengers struggle to survive on a train from Seoul to Busan. So a fund manager who has divorced his wife earlier decides to take his daughter to her mother in Busan as her birthday gift. So they board the KTX, which is basically the Korean high-speed rail, at a station in Seoul, which is also occupied by a tough working-class husband and his pregnant wife, a high school baseball team, a rich and selfish jerk who we will see a lot of during this movie, two elderly sisters, a homeless man, and a bunch of other people. As the train departs, however, a spasmodic, I don't even know if that's a word, but that's what the plot synopsis says, a spasmodic young woman boards the train with a bite wound on her leg and is succumbed. Zombified, she attacks a passing female train attendant who attempted to resuscitate her, and the zombie infection spreads. So to make matters worse, this epidemic has already spread rapidly outside the nearby train station. So, things go from bad to worse, so to speak. Now, not to be pedantic or anything, but it is kind of difficult to tell if this is a zombie movie or an infected movie. I know some people are sticklers regarding these classifications, and the reason I say that it is difficult to identify here is that the change to zombie form is very fast in this movie. We're talking like a matter of mere seconds between apparent death and rabid zombie form. So it's hard to kind of confirm that the person technically died and became a zombie, or if they just kind of lost consciousness in the transition to being infected. I mean, I have read some reviews that complain that the zombification process in this film is inconsistent as well, because some characters take longer to turn. But if you pay attention, I think most of those instances are when someone suffers a single bite wound on their hand or leg. You know what I mean? On the other hand, characters who are bitten more extensively and in vital areas, like say the neck, turn into zombies very quickly. So I think that zombification process, so to speak, is fairly consistent throughout this film, and I think it's understandable. Not a problem there for me. Now, regardless, I don't really care about the classification of these elements. To me, Train to Busan would be classified as a fast zombie movie, so to speak. One of those flicks where the zombies run fast instead of walking slow. I kind of wish the slower zombie movies would be used a little bit more nowadays. There are some, but those are overall my favorite kind of zombies. But I have no problems enjoying a good, solid, fast zombie flick. And my goodness, Train to Busan is friggin' awesome, I'll just tell you that. Regardless of how you classify it, it's awesome. One reason for this is the fantastic pacing in this film. If you look at the runtime, it's right around 2 hours or so, but man, this one moves. After a brief introduction, everything cranks into high gear and stays that way for most of the runtime, while at the same time providing just enough downtime for the viewer to catch their breath. And this also helps to avoid any monotony or feeling of repetition, which is important. There are a lot of sequences within like the claustrophobic enclosed spaces, such as train cars, but the filmmakers do a great job of constructing many suspenseful and creative scenarios involving fast-moving zombies that feel grounded, realistic, and deadly. And you have to ask yourself the question, though, really, how many different scenarios can you show that take place within train cars? If you've seen Snowpiercer, you might have an idea that there could be quite a bit of variety there. And there is some variety in Train to Busan. There is a huge emphasis here on kind of separating yourself. If you're a person on this train and there's zombies on the train, you want separation there. Because these zombies are pretty freaking nasty. You know, they come at you pretty strong. So you need some separation. And a lot of times that involves the doors between the train cars. Those play a pivotal role in this movie. So that's kind of nice. And they do use them a little bit differently, you'll see in different moments. It also incorporates some unexpected weaknesses of the zombies that are introduced later on. So that kind of plays into effect where it requires a little bit of strategy on the protagonist's part. Also, the human conflicts change as the film progresses. And since the human conflicts are so well integrated with the horror elements, that provides some refreshingly different moments as well. So I really do think this movie does change it up enough to keep it interesting and it doesn't feel tedious, you know? And finally, there are a small handful of scenes that do take place off of the train. No spoilers here, but again, that also helps to change things up because the viewer, really, in this movie, it shows a lot of the information from the protagonist's perspective. So the viewer a lot of times doesn't know a whole lot more than what the protagonists know. So you have no idea what's going on outside of this train. You know, just like the protagonist. You know, is this like a local zombie outbreak that hit a few train stations or a few towns or cities? Is this something that is nationwide in South Korea, or is this something that's worldwide? You have no idea, you know, going through the movie. And you get a little bit of a feel for that as it progresses. You know, the filmmakers intentionally restrict the viewer's knowledge to be consistent with that of the protagonist. So it creates a sense of like apocalyptic dread. Even if maybe it's not apocalyptic, you still get that dread there. And it works. You know, you gradually feel how this zombie conflict is affecting the people outside of the train through the perspective of those that are inside of it. So I like that. Another big positive is that there is not much in the way of outlandish CGI action or huge explosions. You know, it helps keep things grounded. Most of the horror action feels personal and dangerous, consequently. Now, I would not classify Train to Busan as an especially deep movie, so to speak. Most of the characters are rather basic here, alright? But this kind of reminded me a little bit of the Indonesian action film The Raid from 2011, or even Mad Max Fury Road from 2015, because the script writing is efficient, it's clean, and it's simple. You know what I mean? And there's some positives to using that strategy here. Not a whole lot of wasted time in these movies, okay? And that's such a huge positive that it cannot be understated. You could have had like a 45-minute slow spot smack dab in the middle of all these movies, but given the plot structures and the action design, it's far more efficient to kind of pepper in a bunch of brief yet informative character moments throughout the films. So, you know, for example, you know, The Raid, you have the character Mad Dog. You know, the scene he puts his gun down and says something like, you know, shooting people's like ordering takeout. You know, less than 5 seconds of dialogue for the guy, really, in the movie, but you get a feel of what the character's about. In Fury Road, you get that one dude who gets shot in the head by the arrow earlier on in the film, and he kind of struggles to his feet, you know, yells something like, "Witness me," and then he kamikazes himself on the enemy. You know, again, not a whole lot of dialogue with that dude, but you get an idea of how that society operates, right? As well as the brief beliefs, you know, the belief system of, you know, Immortan Joe's followers. So, and you do this without stalling the pace of the movie, you know, with an hour of people sitting around a table discussing why they do everything that they do. So, I really think that type of clean script writing, kind of the streamlined, so to speak, script writing, has a lot of benefits that some people, I think, don't appreciate quite as much as they should. Let's put it that way. So, in a like manner, we get some similar scenes like that in Train to Busan. For example, the muscular husband character, I believe that the proper term is Diesel, the Diesel husband character, has a brief conversation, like less than 5 minutes with the main protagonist's daughter. And it's a charming little moment there that helps to make the character likable. Get a little flavor for him, amidst all of the horror and action. And, that's a positive, because a lot of the protagonists here are very likable. And that's, how many horror movies have I seen the past few years? Especially, some American horror films where the characters, you just want to punch them in the face, It's not the case here. Characters here are likable. Now, the script does mostly avoid dumb character decision-making and contrivances, because a few of the mistakes that these characters make are totally understandable. No spoilers here, but one scene involves a guy who opens a door. That's all I'll say. And that scene hit me pretty hard because I did not see it coming. You know what I mean? Now, I say mostly here because there are a few moments that I would have personally rewritten, especially near the very end of the film. A few of these questionable decisions that are near the end of the film, I think, could have been very easily rewritten to be a little bit more effective, but it's probably my biggest gripe for this movie, and it's not that big of a gripe, so it tells you how much I like this one. Acting across the board is solid here. Star-studded cast. And I would actually say that the extras in this movie, before I get to the main actors, I gotta mention the extras here. The people who play the zombies did a fantastic job. They contort their bodies in all kinds of freaky ways too, and the makeup effects on them are top notch. Now these actors and actresses must have been coached or practiced this, because the way they move is so abnormal and weird and freaky. It really works. Very good, nice job. So in the main roles here, you have Gong Yoo in the lead, and you may have recognized him in Silenced from 2011 or The Suspect from 2013. Both highly entertaining films, by the way. I definitely recommend those. Then you have Dongsuk Ma, who's great in everything he's been in. He played the good psycho, so to speak, in Midnight FM, and he was also in The Neighbors from 2012. He's been in a bunch of stuff as a side character. He's great every time. Yu-mi Jung is also here as the pregnant wife character. She's also great in everything she's in. You may have recognized her in Chaw from 2009, Oki's Movie from 2010, and Silenced in 2011 with Gong Yoo. So, and the little girl here, who is kind of a newcomer, I think, I haven't seen her in much else, is Soo-ahn Kim, who is very good. There are a few scenes near the end of this movie where this little girl is kind of forced to express some strong emotion, given what's happening around her, and she nails it. She does a good job. So I look forward to seeing more from her as she grows up. So overall, if you haven't guessed, I think Train to Busan is quite fantastic. It does not have a US DVD release yet, but there's a very high probability that it will, given its popularity internationally. So look out for that. I bet it'll land within the next 4 or 5 months, maybe. Right now, though, there are some DVDs floating out there on eBay, but it's going to be kind of a hit or miss affair in terms of the subtitle quality. It might be best to wait for the official US DVD to land. But I think it's just one of those movies that you don't need subtitles for. I really don't think you need subtitles for Train to Busan. A lot of what happens is visually driven and expressed. So I bet this movie would be enjoyable even without subs. So if you can't wait for the US release, you could pick up a copy on eBay, and if it has good subs or even no subs, you'll still be able to like it. So those are my thoughts on this one, and as always, we'll see you next time.